a topic that's close to my heart, people with disabilities, and focusing on the accessible garden is what this is going to be about. I got involved in this in the 1990s when I was designing curriculum uh, for biotechnology and trying to do it so that people with disabilities could also do those things in the labs. I was lucky to meet Lorraine Summers, who's at AAAS. She does Entry Point right now. She has cerebral palsy. Um, she a magnificent woman. If you've not seen any of her YouTubes, you should take a peek. The other gentleman that I worked with was a physicist from Rochester Institute of Technology. He was a physicist and he was deaf. And then I worked with a research scientist at NIH who was a chemist and well known. So that's what got me into this, all right, and sharing with these people and learning more about it. We did all kinds of training in it as well. I'm going to give you a little overview of gardens. Here, yeah, there we go. So first one I'm going to talk about is the Garden of Eden, all right? And I'm giving you a little idea about all of these because gardens have been with us forever, all right, since the beginning of time, Garden of Eden. And this is the one, the purpose of this garden, it's actually a myth, we believe, but it was taking man from innocence to what we have today, all right, the concerns of the time. Right? The next one is the Gardens of Babylon. This particular one, the king built this for his wife who was homesick for her home. And it's meant to look like a mountain. All right. It was one of the 7 wonders of the world. So as I'm describing each of these, you'll see there's a purpose for all of these different gardens and what's within each of these gardens. The next one is Persia. All right. And
Kathy,
this one,
could you speak just a little louder?
sure, I
You're
could.
very quiet today.
Okay. Let me see if I can get my volume up a little bit. All right. Let's see what I do here. Better? Okay. All right. So the next one is the Iram Garden of Persia, which is still in existence. It's in Iran. All right. I've never had the opportunity, all right, to see it, but it's part of the natural heritage of the country itself. And Iran, Persia, just beautiful tile work and buildings and all kinds of reflecting ponds. All right. So this is taking a little bit through the history of these. The next one I'm going to just speak briefly about will be Egypt. And this is, I found this fascinating. Theirs were all for beauty, all right? And they would have waters and birds, flowers, etc. And when people died, all right, they would take gardens and make gardens outside of the tombs, all right? I don't know about the pyramids per se, but I do know that that was a practice, all right? So that the people in the afterlife could enjoy the gardens as well. Rome just had magnificent gardens. No matter where you went, they were always well planned, excellent architecture, usually trees, beautiful ornamental trees and fruit trees. They did have some value as far as eating, all right, with it. But they were absolutely gorgeous. In fact, when the barbarians came in, they destroyed everything but the gardens and left them intact. That's how impressed they were with the gardens themselves. The next one are the Japanese. And if you ever have a time where you're, this is a great garden for COVID. Theirs is all about tranquility and having you relate to nature and dissolving into nature itself. And this is a moss garden, a representative of it. But almost all of them, all right, even the Zen gardens are like that, the ones with sands and such. The Chinese are a little more rigid, all right? Theirs about order, all right? So you can see the contrast between the two Asian cultures. They believe that everything should have a place and all the plants have a particular function, as do the animals in your garden. So you can see everything is really prim and proper. And then we get to the medieval times, right? In the medieval times, this is very classy. This is the St. Francis down in DC, where you see all of this wonderfulness. But the medievals, all right, were more onto taking a look at cultivation of food. So this is a little bit of the herb garden that you can see down there at the monastery. But they focused on food. That was their big thing. And the food could have a beautiful place, all right? But all the people, whether they're rich or poor, had gardens, all right, and focusing on foods. The next one, this is just a brief overview, there are many other types of gardens in between, is the English garden. And it was a revolt against architecture, all right? And the main work was just to have a nice place to walk, a path. You can see on the sides there aren't any distinct patterns within the plants themselves. You just have a walkway that gets you through it. And within that, there's just a collection of things for you to enjoy and view. The next are the French, and they go back to orderly, all right? So if you take a look at the English versus the French, the French have everything in place, all the topiaries, all the designs, all right, go on and on with it. And there's the principle of imposing order on nature. You must get nature under control. The English garden is sort of like your wayward garden. We saw the gentleman last night with his little house out in the whatever, had everything all over it, right? The English gardens are sort of like, they're a little prettier, perhaps, I shouldn't say that, a little more orderly than his was, but same idea. They thought it should have an informal design, whatever was comfortable to you, and make it very homey, right? And the English gardens are very homey, right? And they had a mixture of very beautiful flowers with edible plants. Right? And some of us during COVID, I did this myself, not quite like an English garden, but up front, we're not allowed to grow vegetables. So I did a wonderful mix of beautiful flowers with all the vegetables I wanted to grow, right? And developed trellises, the same type of thing, right? So I kind of considered I had a little English garden out front for a change. So the whole concept of this is gardening is for everybody, all right? And everyone should enjoy it. And I think COVID has brought that out more than anything. I was listening to David talking about people coming and asking about seeds for their gardens and how to grow, all of that. I know they've had myriad of questions about it at the help stations as well. And I'm going to point out one particular garden that's in our area. It's at a high school. It's at Stephen Knowles School up in Kensington. And this was prior to COVID, all right? But they have all kinds of sensory gardens up there. They have students from 3 to 21, so that's preschool to young adults, all right, that have major disabilities, and our types of education programs that we have right now cannot really assist them. So they have all kinds of modifications for those young children, all right, and young adults. And there's a lot of, teaching by the older ones to the younger ones, which actually forms a very cohesive community. They're very dedicated, all right, to helping them. Of course, gardening is the 5 senses, and that's what you're going to stress throughout all of this. And I just have, this is a marigold. What are the senses that you can actually express right here? Sight, you can put on your microphone, I think, maybe not. I'm sort of an interactive teacher. So I saw sight, all right, color, so that's vision, and the marigold has a real pungent odor, all right, to it, and even touching it, all right. So a lot of them have several things that respond to your senses. The next one, this is one of the little ponds I have on my lower deck. It's just at its beginning, but it has the sound of the water coming out that frog's mouth, and I've got different plantings in it, have different touches, shapes, that type of thing. And it's a wonderful little sound to listen to. And if you look way in the back, I have a large pond, and that's, oh my gosh, it's the bar for the birds and the deer, and I have the buffet with all my plants surrounding it, all right? So you can see all kinds of wonderful things there. And this is one of my favorite plants. That's that Japanese grass. I found out when I was doing one workshop at down in Vienna with another master gardener. This is just a wonderful plant. If you don't have it, I've got it out back. And I think the correct pronunciation is, let me see, Haikulai, probably murdering it, all right. It was a plant of the year, I think, in 2007. The wind blows through it. All right, I have blue goldfish that are pottery that are in there. And so you can see them swaying, looks like they're swaying through water. So that's a visual effect, a hearing effect, and it's beautiful to just touch and put your hands on. And I think it delights the color too. Other ones are bluebirds. I was really blessed about 3 weeks ago. I have not seen a bluebird in my yard probably for 15, 20 years. I had 15 of them flitting back and forth in my yard, going back and forth. And I had that delight for about a solid 5 minutes. All right. Just amazing little birds going back and forth. So we have lots of birds out back, but that's something else is gardens that track those birds. All right. For food. And if you have a water source around, they're there for the waters as well. Not that you can actually touch them, but you can see their beauty, hear their songs. So gardens bring all those things in, along with insects into your garden. And this is one that the hummingbirds love. So they'll get their little beaks up in there and just totally enjoy themselves and the nectar that's inside. So it's varying the types. And here's another one, a wild geranium that I have out back as well. So not just the 5 senses, all right, but awareness of your body in the garden, all right. I am 74, soon to be 75, and I'm realizing, you know, my body movements and my motions and where I am in balance in my garden. I have to think about it, all right. I've made modifications in my gardens. I have them tiered so that I have walkways around all my beds, all right, and they're circular or whatever, but they're a good 12 to 14 inches wide. So no matter how high it is, I can walk around and I can tend, all right, my plants, and some of them are at heights where I can actually just go into. But when we take a look at this, you have to be aware of where you are. So vestibular, when you talk about vestibular, right, you're talking about your balance. And as you age, all right, that becomes a challenge, all right, for a lot of us. I take Pilates to help with my balance and do some of these crazy exercises to do that. But the garden is a wonderful place to help you with balance and your vestibular forces. Proceptive, this particular one is where your body is in place in time. And that's a little hard for people to understand, but in a garden, you need to be able to realize where you are in place. You have to watch where you're stepping. You have to be cognizant of the shrubs, etc., that are around you, bushes that may have thorns. So it's taking a look at other senses of your body that aren't just the major 5 senses. And the last one that I'm talked to is the kinesthetic one. And this is the one where you have these proceptors, all right, in your joints and in your muscles. And not only in people who have aged, but people with disabilities, those may not be as receptive as they used to be, all right? And so you have to be aware of those and make modifications as you move through your garden. You may not be able to touch as well if you have any neurodegenerative maladies, all right? Like I can't feel the bottoms of my feet. So I have to be very careful where I'm stepping, okay? And make sure I don't step on something really crazy. So here's a young man in his wheelchair, and this is helping him, all right? See where he is in space and time and awareness of where he is within the plants, all right? And this is modified so that he can get in there and actually be able to do the touching and see those types of things. So he's able to squeeze in that nook, all right, and using all of these other types of senses to get into there. This one is kids just gleefully up in space, swinging away. Of course, your vestibular is all over the place. So is where your space and time, and also where your balance, all right, is located as well. So swinging in the air, we all remember doing that. And sometimes when you get a chance, you do it on your walks anyway. And then, of course, rolling down a hill. Right? That's the same idea, giving you that idea of space, because as you're going down, all of those things within your middle ear that give you your balance and your perception are changing, all right? And this can happen to you when you fall. And if you fall, all right, it's good of you to be cognizant of where you are in space as you are rolling or falling. And many people with disabilities have this issue when they're doing it, gardening. So 5 senses. I love them in the herb garden. This has chard mostly, all right, in it, but lots of things. And you see there, this little boy on the girl on the left has a wheelchair, but she's able to get in there, all right, and see it. The other one has a little seat that she can sit on, all right, and have access to the garden. But they can feel those crunchy little leaves and smell them, all right. Lavender is a beautiful thing to have. Not only is it fragrant, but it's got a wonderful touch to it. Picks up the wind. Wonderful thing for senses and seeing where you are, space and time as well. And then this is a sage that I have. I love this one. It has just this wonderful furry, hairy leaf on it. Another one, if you're not able to see, all right, can do this. That series of classes I did way back in the 90s, I did them for 3 years. They would have us blinded, they would have us deaf and couldn't hear, all of those senses, so that we would have to learn, all right, how to navigate in an environment. And I can tell you, teaching to the senses improved my teaching more than anything in the whole world. If you teach the senses, anyone can learn. So this is going to get me to healing gardens. A lot of those people with challenges, all right, have to worry about, these are a mixture of all kinds of things with healing gardens. You'll see them at nursing homes, you'll see them at vet centers, you see them in, like, Goodwin House has their gardens out there for the elderly that live there. So they're a mixture of grace and also learning, and sometimes food as well, all right? And each of these contains seeds. And I think the most healing part of the garden is to know hope. And each seed, right, carries hope, all right, for the future, for all of us, all right? And that's one of the things that you can stress with people in a healing garden, right? It could be just a stream like this, which is beautiful. We've all had that ability. This is actually in somebody's yard. I wish I had this yard. It's beautiful. Mine is just Mother Nature running down off the, watered off the sides, all right? But it's a time so that you can engage in nature and plants and animals and fresh air and water. I live in Franklin Farm, and we have many accesses of paths that take us to all these different ponds, places, and lots of native plants within our system as well of walkways. We have like 67 acres of primeval, or I call it, areas that haven't been touched, although the kids are in there right now just destroying all of that with things, but that happens, all right, because I explored the woods when I was little. Why shouldn't they? All right. And it provides a sense, you have to provide a sense of control for the person, so they have to have doorways and access. This would not be one that someone that had any problems with balance or wheelchair could access, but they could look at it from the front, all right, of it. So you have to have places where they can navigate, areas when they can find privacy. We have several of those in Franklin Farm. We had these old benches, and so instead of just disposing of them, our board decided that they would place them in different places along the pathways. So you can sit and watch pond, you can sit in the wooded areas. It's just a lovely thing. And you can all think of other gardens that do that for you. And it also provides you with areas of social activity. You can interact with other people as well. Even if it's with your mask and 6 feet, you can still do it today. And it's the opportunity for movement and exercise, all right? Even I've seen people that even if they are disabled, they might be in the wheelchair or whatever, but sometimes they'll have a walker with them, and they'll have someone helping them, of course, but they're able to get out there with their walker and walk a little bit. So that gets them moving some of their other parts of their bodies as well. And then experiencing all the plantings and things that are located along the way. And they are therapeutic. I don't know about you, but mud is my favorite therapy. I just love to have my hands in the dirt. All right. And in fact, my family calls me the mud lady, because I just totally, all right, enjoy it. So this is just showing you that of planting. You could be a lot cleaner than that, but yeah, what's the use, you know? And that's where you can feel the texture. You can actually commune with, if you have a spiritual life, just the beauty of nature itself. And it's very good for your psyche to be out there and feeling and touching. And there are some people who cannot feel, all right, but then they can actually see. And even the mud dripping off your hands is a great visual for people. So these are some of the ones, they call them therapeutic or rehabilitation or enabling gardens. And you can just go down through the list. Almost anything you can imagine, all right, there's a garden, all right, for it. Down to homelessness. We have homeless here within Franklin Farm. I know they're out behind St. Veronica's Church, but they'll come out and take a look at the gardens that are around St. Veronica's. They'll come down into our common areas and go through the woods, etc. Good for them. They get to go out and see, all right, and just be with nature. I think it's a therapeutic thing for all of us. Eating disorders. I had a granddaughter who was anorexic, and that was one of the ways that it helped her as well. She got interested in herbs, believe it or not, and that got her back into eating a better diet. All right. I don't know if it was the taste or smell or texture or what, but a wonderful way, right, to do it. So there's all kinds of garden equipment for people that do have disabilities, all right, and you can make it yourself. You can modify it. There's all kinds of things. Just adding foam so you don't feel that tightness, or you make it a little bit heavier for them. Tape to hold things together. PVC pipe to make it longer so they don't have to go down and you know, on their hands and knees. Bicycle grips are really good if you have those. And then of course, there's all kinds of ergonomic ones that are available in the market. I have a favorite pair of pruning shears that are ergonomic, and they are just amazing. All right. I have others that I've got to, you know, hang on to and do all my trimming. But some of the ergonomic tools are out of this world to help you with what you can do. And gloves that have sticky surfaces, things that can grip. More of our gloves are being made that way. If you take a look at the ones that you see in the gardening stores and places like Lowe's, etc., you'll see those little grippers, all right, on it. The ones that have the dots, but they used to have just the smooth ones. A lot of the pretty ones are smooth ones. And then splints and supports and occupational therapists. If you have somebody that is in rehab right now, all right, they can help you with a lot of things. They don't have to stay in the house, all right. If they can be moved outside to a garden or even within the areas where they are, you can help them with all these things, right? And help with their joints. And always lightweight tools. All mine are so heavy, you know, it's like my pots and pans. I have pots and pans that probably weigh as much as a car, all right? Because when I was first cooking, I went into the crosettes and all the heavy ones, all right? And now I look toward the lighter ones, although I know I can make the best soups in the other ones. Same with the gardening, you have that extra strength with that weight behind you. And so this is just a sample. We all have these. You can take planters that you can bring down. So someone that has a disability, maybe in a wheelchair, there's actually ties that you can put on the bottom of that and pull it down so they can water. Right with it. Favorite habitat of birds. And this is another one showing a modification on a trowel for people. And then of course we have the guards that are stacked where they can actually go in and reach what level they want to garden. So with the 5 senses, these are some of the ones that I suggest. Woolly lamb's ear, you can put that around your garden. You can actually put it within your foods itself. Aloe vera, bottle brush, snapdragons, all these things that people can touch and feel. Snapdragons, I can remember as a small child, you know, playing with those, and of course buttercups and the wild snapdragons that were available in the fields. Taste, basil, my favorite, strawberries, peas, rosemary. You can go on and on with all the ones that have these wonderful tastes. And remember, there are people who cannot taste. A lot of the people with COVID, all right, end up not being able to taste. I have a very dear friend who has not been able to taste for the last 20 years. Right? She said the best diet she was ever on. But what Bonnie has done is she said, I know the textures all right? I can't necessarily taste anything, but I know the textures that I like to have. So she started to do that. And of course, then she can't taste, she can't smell. But there's all these other ones. I mean, lemon balm, jasmine, sweet peas. I mean, you go out in your garden, you can just know the roses, all those things. Just by the time of the year that you go out, there's a different smell, all right, with what's popping out at that point in time. And the colors, all right, a myriad of colors. I loved this year in COVID with our lockdown. I could go out every day and I saw something different that had popped up. And I don't think I ever watched them or observed them as well as I did. And those bright colors are things that bring light to your heart, and those with that are needing access. Sound, corn. I wasn't successful with my corn, but bamboo, which I would not recommend, but other grasses like the Haliacii that I had, things that wind will blow through, all right? And even your trees, all right, depending on what kinds of trees you have in your garden, provide that sound, all right? And even with a mild wind, you can listen with what is available to you. And so modification, here's one where they've taken a wheelchair. This is actually one you can purchase, and the person can plant their garden, all right, in this giant vat, all right, and not have to be moved away, all right. And of course, that darling little dog is setting to one that, you know, if you want to do it in tiers. And then the one over on the right shows an herb garden that you can access. There's all kinds of modifications, all right, for it. And then gardening activities, they can water. I mean, if they say, oh, I can't do anything, they can, everybody can water, all right? Just like this little squirt on the side over here. Digging and planting and sowing seeds, those are all good. Just everybody can do that as long as they have hands. Even those with hands that are prosthetic can do it. All right. Arthritis, you can do a limited amount of it as well. Pruning and clipping, you can get things that can be modified to help you with all those. Weeding and mulching, we all know that weeding is just an endless task, all right? It's a good thought process. You can go through any problem you have digging the weeds, all right? And mulching, flower picking, arranging them, right, after they've been picked. And craft activities in the garden itself. People that paint pots or have wrought iron pieces in their gardens. I mean, I have a huge fairy garden, all right? That's one of the things I just love. It's just my little city down there, all right? It's my dream place. You can do that. You don't have to have one big like I do. This is just a turkey. I don't know if you've all done that. I've done the one that lays down, all right? But that can be done, and that's a creative way that people can go ahead and do something that they'll pick the harvest and then come home and do something with that harvest. Right. And cooking from the garden, there's nothing like it, all right? I have my stand of oregano. Now my basil's inside, but I have my chives and parsley. All of that's out in my yard. And so I can just go and collect those and bring them in. There's nothing like cooking with fresh herbs. And those are things that people with disabilities, instead of having to go around the yard like I do, they can have that right outside, all right, in a place. Or they can have it inside with one of those grow lights that they can access the garden. So making a garden easy to use for people with disabilities. These are just some of the things. Those raised gardens, just think about, you know, how could you access it, all right? Tables that can be accessed to do potting and planting. Pots, window boxes, wheelbarrows, all kinds of things, modifications that you can do. I've seen them where you can hook them onto the wheelchair and bring them around, all right? As long as you have a flat yard and they can unload whatever they need to do so they don't have to carry stuff. The retractable hanging basket that we saw. Containers with wheels. I bought all these giant ones for my inside, and then I have some outside. But I put all my heavy plants there. I don't have to worry about breaking my back anymore. I just roll them to and fro where I want, right? To catch the sunlight, which moves, all right? And make sure you keep the paths smooth. Not so smooth that they fall, all right? But accessible and level for them. And water supply. People don't think about this, but water is something that's very difficult for people with disabilities. And so you can arrange for them to have it near the gardening source where they are, so they can have easy access to it, all right, and fill up such, all right. And equipment storage areas, shed nearby, if they can do that sort of thing and be accessible to it. And shade, people forget about that, all right. I do, I'll get out there just going crazy in my garden, and all of a sudden I'll think, oh, I'm getting a sunburn, you know, I came out too early. And so just stressing all those things that protect us. And another thing people don't think about is access to a toilet. So if people with disabilities, people who have problems with access, they have to be able to get to a restroom, right, along that way. So mostly flat gardens. So gardening skills for them, it's not just about what you're doing with your hands. It's a time to get involved like we are and communicate and develop social skills and grow within the community itself. That's the value of these community gardens that we have all around. Fitness, it's a great physical exercise. Even if you're in the wheelchair, right, you're using your arms, all right. And if you have up and down, all right, even with arthritis, you have to do some of those things as well. And it builds confidence, you're getting skills, all right. And well-being, I think there's no place like it to relax and reduce your stress. I have several areas like I do in my house where I call them stress-free areas. Someone was noting how many places I have for you just to sit and rest in the house. We'll have those out in the garden too. All right, if you just want to sit and rest, look, all right, and enjoy. And it improves, all right. You can retrain some of those skills that you've lost with physical ability. It does help you, just moving your hands, moving your legs, and thinking about it. That's another part. And nutrition, you learn about nutrition, which helps you as well. And knowledge, just a chance to be out there outside, learning about nature and the environment, listening to the birds, seeing things grow. Right now I'm watching my orchid. It's taken it 3 years to get buds on it. And I've been watching it now for, oh my gosh, a month. And they're getting bigger and bigger, you know. And when you're outside, you can do that as well. Watch all this stuff happen. And just, oh, I just find it enjoyment. My husband says, you could spend all day out there, which I do. And he can't, all right? But I love it. I just love it. And sharing that with people in all means, I think is just the best thing you can do. And there's all kinds of careers that can come out of this, all right? This is just a few of them, all right? They can be vocation, they can be at facilities for those that are elderly or youth risk programs. That's a really good one of helping them. Art therapy in the garden, believe it or not, that's a great one as well. And there you go with the physical therapy portion of it. There's just all kinds of ways that you can get a career, right? Or volunteer, all right? And just like the gentleman last night talked about us volunteering to take those photographs. Oh my gosh, that was amazing. If you didn't see him, you need to watch it on his videotape. That was a great one. So I find gardens healthy, stimulating, just wonderful for everybody, all right? Doesn't make a difference if you can't see and you can't hear or smell. One of your senses will work, all right? There's ways that you can get in there and adjust to what you want for your gardens itself, all right? And it can be a landscape, easily accessible and safe for everybody, all right? So, and here are some of the resources that you can use for finding those. And over on the right is a pizza made out of fruit from the garden, okay? So, yay. Enjoy.